I'm here to talk about Plymouth, but it is in the context of the Trident nuclear program that others will be talking about. But here you see only part of the 4 miles of military docks on the western end of Plymouth, which is a city of 270,000 people. And across the road that you see on the left are residential buildings. It's right on the city, and it's where people live. It's not simply a naval dockyard out of the way, such as Faz Lane. It's a Ministry of Defence naval dockyard. There's Navy personnel there, but it's owned privately, and that's another whole discussion we could have over the privatisation of the nuclear weaponry of Britain and the United States. But Babcock International has a turnover of 4.5 billion a year, is a major player in the military and arms industry, and is benefiting massively from this government's increase in military spending. It's here for nuclear submarine refits, for deep maintenance, defueling and dismantling, and you will know it from the Vanguard class submarines that apparently one of them has to be on duty at any one time, ready to fire first if there's a nuclear crisis. But it's going to be here for the new Trident replacement dreadnought submarines, should they ever happen. You can see there one of the docks. There's 14 nuclear submarines, all decommissioned, but bobbing at anchor because they don't know what to do to decommission them. They have their nuclear cores inside, and they have to be kept safe. It costs £30 million a year for that square in the bottom right of your screen to be kept safe, as they call it. There's 5,500 employees all told, and it's said to be the heart of Plymouth and more important than everything else that goes on in our city. But Plymouth University alone has more employees. They're now seeing job cuts. Derriford Hospital has 11,000 in the city, 11,000, with huge cuts of £100 million in this year, and 100 schools with about 5,000 employees, and they, of course, are facing severe cuts too. Babcock, the owners of what you see in front of you, is actually being paid by the taxpayer £1 billion for a refit of Dock 10, which is just above the picture, for the dreadnought submarines. So you can see there's £1 billion just to make the dock bigger and deeper, whilst there's no money for any public services at all. Really, if you were to stop nuclear weaponry tomorrow, which of course is what we're campaigning for, it would take 100 years to actually make this area safe from radiation, at least 100 years, because there's radioactive isotopes. Now, what we have in Plymouth is 2 rivers that come in east and west of the city, and they flow into Plymouth Hoe, which is a marvelous inner shoreline and dock area, and that has been found to have every human-made radioisotope that has ever been created. In fact, so many that there's satellites that are able to give 3-dimensional maps of the flows and the eddies and currents inside Plymouth Hoe from the 2 rivers and from the sea, because of all the different radioactive isotopes that Plymouth Dockyard has actually secreted into the sea. And if you think about that, then of course it's in our air, and it's in our mud, and it's in our earth here as well. We did complain about this in the noughties. We had 2 big demonstrations of over 1,000 people, and we complained to the Environment Agency, who promptly agreed that there was a lot of radioisotope activity and saw that tritium levels were very high, so they increased 7-fold the required levels that were allowed by law. In other words, we didn't get very far. There's been 10 nuclear leaks at the dockyard in the last 30 years. serious fires this century, and there is a succession of inspection fines and warnings, but all the time we are told in our local press and politicians that it's very safe here. The radioactive nuclear waste here, the low and medium level, is stored in drums on a wall 400 feet from the primary school that is just at the other side of the main gates across a dual carriageway. And they also built an incinerator here of German design from the 1980s, right next to the nuclear waste, which has had 4 incidents on the continent of blowing up since the 1980s when it was when they were first designed. So we have lockdown drills. The school has 2 fire alarms, one for fire when they all evacuate, and one for radiation when they have to hide under the desk, close all the doors and windows, and parents aren't allowed to come and pick the kids up. We used to be given potassium iodide pills, but no more. They think it's too safe to bother to do anything like that in case of a nuclear accident, because they simply say there's never going to be a nuclear accident. Meanwhile, a couple of years ago, we had the Vanguard submarine, Trident submarine, towed in HMS Astute, and had to have Tomahawk cruise missiles capable of nuclear warheads unloaded at the dockside. And in February 2023, we had another nuclear submarine that was found that they had discovered cracks in the nuclear reactor and had glued the cracks back together. So we don't believe in this safety very much at all. There's also an extremely big amount of security leaks, not least when 3 protesters got on board a Vanguard submarine and in the end, in the middle of the night, had to phone the police to come and arrest them because nobody seemed to be bothered that they were there. In the meantime, the housing and communities around the dockyard live in poverty. 1 in 3 children in Devonport live in poverty. We see major deprivation indicators, twice the national rate, and poor health, with incredible levels of difference in life expectancy based on class and where they live in the city. Babcock profits and the salaries of the scientists at the dockyard don't stay in Plymouth. So when they say it makes Plymouth rich, actually all the money goes outside and all the well-paid staff don't live in Plymouth. But we are dominated by propaganda. Both our MPs are very pro-nuclear. Luke Pollard is the Armed Forces Minister. Fred Thomas is an ex-Royal Marines officer. The local council champions the dockyard, despite making massive cuts to its own staff. And of course, they're all Labour Party, Labour government and Labour Council members. We also have the Health Service and University, who are tied to Babcock. The university gets major funding from Babcock, and the Health Service uses naval personnel to prop up its staff. So we have to defy all the false promises, because the reports that are coming out now that Trident replacement will create an extra 20,000 jobs in Plymouth and district are pure fantasy. And the demonstration in part is simply to highlight that. What's the future look like? Well, Plymouth Nuclear Private Dockyard is part of a new Freeport enterprise that has taken in the whole of Dartmoor that we sit on the edge of, with major tax exemptions for Babcock, deregulation, as well as some greenwash that we have to expose all the time. The decommissioning will continue whatever happens. So we're not, when we call for the end of Trident, we're not calling for the end of the nuclear dockyard, because we need jobs there for 100 years to clean it up. But Plymouth could be the global centre for climate jobs, not nuclear and military, you know, the swords into ploughshares routine. The Trident replacement at the moment is on £13 billion a year, although the National Audit Office is saying the whole thing, particularly Dreadnought, but the whole programme is out of control in terms of costs. So we're constantly having to talk about the jobs, the good climate jobs that could be done and funded by the same money if only we shut down Trident nuclear submarines and nuclear armaments. But we're told all the time that we're in a rearmament and a pre-war situation. And that just means that Plymouth is a military target and we get no outside investment. Just look at what Japan has created in this underwater turbine. We could have been creating those 20 years ago, and we were saying this 20 years ago. So here's a picture to leave you with of Plymouth Hoe at dusk. I'm 10 minutes walk away from here. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful city that is unfortunately full of radioactive isotopes. But nevertheless, if we got rid of the military nuclear dockyard, we would be a wonder of the new world. Thank you.